Hey there viewers, and welcome back in the midst of the epidemic. We have here an ill Honda lawnmower. I believe it's a 21 inch, 7 horsepower as indicated by the 217. So basically, in a little nutshell, it's got the GCV-190, which is like 98% identical to the 160. It's basically just a larger displacement engine. So the reason that it's here, puddle of oil. So a customer drug it out of storage and said, hey, there's a puddle of oil under my mower. So brought it here, see what was wrong with it, and the starter was sticking. So we got the starter fixed because we already have a video on that, so really no point in that. But what we're gonna do, because the valve cover is leaking, there's two options on this valve cover. It's either got a gasket or it's glued on. Either way, we're gonna be more than likely gluing it back on as far as that's concerned. So since we're gonna have the valve cover off, I've already taken the liberty of draining the oil in this engine so it doesn't make a big mess all over my floor. And I've procured RTV and a set of feeler gauges. So what we're gonna do when we're fixing the oil leak out of the valve cover is we're going to go ahead and adjust the valves on this engine too. So we know it's the valve cover because the clutch area on the bottom of the engine is nice and dry, and then when you stick your hand underneath the valve cover, it's pretty wet. So let's make that happen. Let's take this thing apart.
Would you talk to me a little louder? And about that, I don't wanna be in this without you. 'Cause I like the way when you're around in the morning, and I love the way that we fit out when it gets boring. You're the one I talk
So step one, just so you can see. Just gonna excuse the stuff on the top. Go ahead and pull the spark plug, because we can. First try. Then, what we're gonna do she's glued on. Okay, so oh yeah, there's two ways this will work. I'm gonna get a blow gun and clean all the garbage out from behind it because I don't want it falling into the engine. Just cover the spark plug hole. Sometimes you can just grab a pull. That's not happening on this one. I'm gonna go get me a putty knife. Actually, I just tried a screwdriver. Clearly, this is glued on in no uncertain terms. There we go. We'll just bend that back while it's still sort of adhered to the engine. So yeah, you can see that. I guess Honda allegedly has a gasket or something that goes on these. It says so on the service manual. I have personally never seen it in real life. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover the jiggly bits inside of this and give everybody kind of a little wipe down here. I have tipped the mower forward such that the idea, oh, I forgot. Anyway, with the idea being that the garbage drains out of the engine and obviously not into it. So anyway, I'm gonna clean up this mess And then we'll go ahead and get everybody top dead center on the compression stroke. And at that point, we can adjust valves. Oh man, this is actually cleaning up really nice. It's sad when the part you just wiped with brake clean, it's cleaner than the rest of the mower. But whatever, that's fine, that's how I roll. We're back. I'm just gonna rotate. This tank is actually full of gas, but we'll just rotate. You can see the rocker arms are doing the rocker arm thing. So pretty much when the magnets by the magneto and the lobe of the camshaft is pointing perfectly towards you, that you are on top dead center of the compression stroke. So to make things easier, I'm just gonna pull these rocker arms out. You're probably asking why? And the answer is, I want to scrape all this RTV trash off the cylinder here. So the only real way to do that is with a razor blade, because this engine is together. It might pull the guard off the muffler. The airbox is usually pretty good to stay. Takes you 10 seconds to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that happen. All right. So now I got good access. Scraping the crap. I'm sure somebody's gonna say in the comment box how you shouldn't use a razor blade on aluminum. But you know what? It'll be fine. What we're gonna do, I'm just gonna wipe all the oil off of the rocker arms here. Make sure everything's nice and clean, that there's no shards or anything. And go ahead and reinstall them. So if you don't get all the RTV silicone off, folks, I'm sorry, it's gonna leak a lot because the silicone isn't going to stick to the silicone. So there's really no nice, easy way about it. So I have no idea how many hours are on this engine. It really doesn't matter. Nobody ever adjusts the valves. But I figured it was a good PM, which is short talk for preventive maintenance, while we're in here. So anyway, cam looks good. Probably doesn't have that many hours on it. All right. So that's good when you have a little bit of slack. I believe the spec, I'll have to go check, straight from the Honda manual. It's the same manual. It's actually the same valve spec for the 160. We got 0.15 millimeters for the intake. So this is the intake over here. So millimeters are not really my forte, but it doesn't matter because I have a feeler gauge. Very clearly says 0.15 on it. So we'll just slide her in, and she's a little tight. Yeah. And when I pull her back, she don't want to go in. So that one's going to need adjusted. I believe that's a 9 millimeter. And go lefty-loosey. You notice those are not super tight. So the actual adjustment is accomplished by turning the tappet, which is literally where I'm grabbing on with the pliers. And then out here that you can see turning is just a jam nut. So I'm gonna turn maybe 1/4 of a turn, gently snug that jam nut with my fingers. I wanna check, ooh, that's too much, way too much, okay? So what I'm gonna do is with the feeler gauge in, the jam nut's loose. I'm just gonna take my, trying to have you guys see it. Really, you can just grab it with your 2 little digits. But just finger tighten the stinking thing, and you're smoking good to go. So that's pretty much it right there. Don't strip these out. It does not take a lot of torque. It's not much. So right now, you can see that, if I can get it in the hole there, You can see I can fit that in. It's not bending, but it's also, the feeler gauge is not just falling out. So that's kind of what we want on that. And then the exhaust is 20. I want to say this is actually 6 to 8 thousand. Yeah, 6 to 8 thousandths. So let's find us a 20, or 6 and 8 thousandths rather, if you're into imperial. I say whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that one's going to need an adjustment anyway. So I'm trying to do this where you can see it. Loosen the jam nut, snug her down with your fingers. Always test it, you know, after I've tightened everything down. So that's a skosh too loose, unfortunately. So we'll loosen it, and we'll go maybe, gosh, like that much. 1/16 of a turn. It ain't a lot. I don't want you to think I'm forcing these adjusters either. So, rather have the exhaust a smidge on the loose side. Again, it's just ever so slightly. Sorry, my hand's in your way, I'm sure. But yeah, I like the way that feels. Okay, sweet. Double check everything. We're good on him. We're good on him. Got a little noise. You got a little noise, so you know you're good. Next up, is to clean this bad boy. Sparky looks good. I'm not gonna do anything with it. What do we got in this 190? A BPR 5 ES. So you could probably shove a 6 in its place if you wanted. But, just some good to know info for you while we're doing this. Factory spec on that one. Folks, there really is no easy way. Clamp it in a vise. My vise has been committed to another project, so I'm using the human vise, the foot vise. So where we're at now, everything has been cleaned with copious amounts of brake clean. The valve cleaner looks like valve cleaner. Wow. Valve cover is nice. We're just going to use Permatex, the right stuff. Don't buy it in the cheese can unless you're planning to use quite a bit of it. So we just want to make sure we don't have any grease or oil anywhere at all. Looks like we might on the motor, because then our RTV is going to leak. And then we won't be getting paid to fix this. So customers tend to only pay the first time when it comes in with a problem. So save yourself the trouble. Get it all nice and clean, like such. Make sure you don't leave any paper in the motor, because they would be bad. Everything looks nice. I like to apply the RTV to the motor. So we're gonna go at kind of a sort of generous. This is a lot harder when, yeah. I mean, you don't want it to like end up all over the inside of the engine, but you do want a generous enough bead that you can take up any warpage you may have introduced in that valve cover. So, especially on the bottom, it pretty much soaks in oil 24/7. So, be a little bit generous on the bottom. If it hits the cam, it just doesn't really do anything bad. So, I've done enough of these motors that you take them back apart, the stuff might just be stuck to the timing belt or something like that. So, no big deal. Everything looks good. Sweet. We'll wipe this stuff off and put the valve cover on. That's about the sound it makes. So, yeah, I like to put all 4 of the little bolts in first. I don't think Loctiting anything is necessary. This right stuff, buy it in a caulking gun tube if you want to buy this stuff. So that cheese gun is just cheese can. It's merely for convenience. It's what I had. Kind of is what it is. So, Right Stuff, I don't know if I said it already, does instruct you to assemble this stuff immediately. And by the way, if you didn't already maybe figure this out, we are doing this on a cold engine, not, can't adjust the valves on a hot engine. Do double check your fasteners by hand, please. I think everybody kind of knows what that looks like. So, I don't use this Black & Decker a lot. It's got a lot more torque than the old DeWalt. So, kind of afraid to run them down good with it. But either way, excuse my big dome. By the way, these studs are a 9mm 6-point. Yes. In case you're wondering, you can't, as a 12-point socket's just not gonna work. By the way. Guys, back in action. 3 flange nuts like normal. And, because while we're at it, we're going to change the oil. Not using a funnel. Drink, drink, my darling. Drink the magic potion. Drink. Yes. Probably about that much. Let's see how we did. Ooh. Oh. Uh-oh. Let her burp. And that, ladies and gentlemen, don't know if you can see that or not, but that is like literally right there at the full. I don't know if you can take that in or not. I mean, I suppose it's crawling up the dipstick, but whatever, take my word for it. It is exactly at the full mark. First try. So I always like to run it for a minute, let the new oil swirl around in there, nice and clean, all that good stuff. And take another stab at that. You don't actually thread this dipstick down, so yeah, as you can see, we're literally right there at the top of the crosshatch, which is exactly where we left it. Stick our big old coconut down here. No drips. That's good. Hot, yeah, everything's nice and bone dry. So that is the expected result. Well, there you got it, folks. That is how you do a valve adjustment and I guess half an oil change, whatever. I like to drain the oil out of it anyway. It just makes a lot less mess. So that is your discretion. It's a service that needs to be done anyway, but valves, spark plug, top disassembly, you name it, probably have about an hour into this unit, not a big deal. Runs like a top, isn't marking its territory any longer, so customer complaint has been addressed. With that being said, why don't you go down below and address that box with the thumbs up, with the subscribe, with the bell, and with the comments. Leave them if you got them. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.